Hi, welcome back to the studio. I've been trying to diagnose, well I have diagnosed the problem with my friend's Dr. Z Carmen Ghia here, and I started making a video about it the other day and I kind of went off on a rant, and I probably sound like a really grumpy old man, so I decided I'm going to rant a little bit less. And the backstory is this Carmen Ghia started making a lot of pops and crackles and very annoying noises, and the Dr. Z amps, they're pretty expensive, and my friend expected it to work the right way and wasn't quite sure what to do about all these noises it was making. So in my other video I caught some footage of what was going on. Long story short, it ended up being a bad power tube. I haven't seen this happen before, but it was actually arcing blue sparks inside one of the power tubes. And every time it arced, it would crackle through the speaker very loudly, like maximum volume crackle. So I brought it up here in the studio. I plugged it into my attenuator so I wouldn't hurt my ears. I removed it from the chassis, wondering what to find, and immediately I saw the power tube problem. So I shut it down, I let it cool off, and my friend had been told there were some problems with the wiring potentially. So I let it cool off and I swapped the two power tubes, thinking if it was a wiring problem, the same position would suffer a blue spark, and if it was a tube problem, then the problem would follow the tube. Well, I switched positions, fired it back up, and the same problem happened. So I will cut to the other video for a minute just to show what I was seeing, because I never saw anything quite like that before. Oh, there it is already. So that popping happening there has been really getting them for a while. That's with the volume turned all the way down. It's still popping. Tap on it with a Sharpie. Oh, there it is. So I went to go finish that other video, and that's where I probably got a little bit grumpy and annoyed about things. I have a hot take on this. The first hot take is I don't think this Dr. Z amp is built as well as it's made out to be built. I'm not really thrilled with the sound of it. That's personal. But just in terms of how it's built, it looks pretty inside. Pretty doesn't make for great amplifiers, though. The thing I was a little bit disappointed in was the amount of stress relief built in, because when you have a turret board build like this amp, there should be a certain way you bend and shape the leads on components so that as the amp heats and cools and ages and maybe the chassis flexes or different things happen, you leave a little bit of room in there in a quality hand-built build for things to move slightly within tolerances. I saw a little bit of stress relief here and there. I really didn't see any outstanding stress relief. So potentially this is a delicate build is one problem I see in there. Secondly, after doing some research, I find out that Dr. Z, this Carmen Ghia in particular, is running the tubes very, very hot. And I think if you're a high-end amp builder, you need to disclose that to your customers maybe. If you're selling them an expensive boutique amp, you have to maybe say, hey, this thing's going to eat some tubes. There's a potential, if that tube is at all questionable, it's going to have a short life. And even with high-quality tubes, apparently they go pretty quickly in here. So, I don't think he was aware of that. I thought for the price he paid, he thought this amp was going to last a very, very long time. But I'll leave it there. That's my hot take on Dr. Z amps. I'm very happy that he put the money into an American company. I do think this could have been put out there maybe a little better. But I'm no electrical engineer. I'm just saying what I know. So speaking of electrical engineering, my other issue is he took this amp to a guy who calls himself the amp doctor because he wanted, you know, a knowledgeable person to work on this. And the amp doctor had this amp for several weeks and gave my friend what I think was an exorbitant bill. And I don't believe the amp doctor did one single thing to it. And when you look at the video of how that power tube was sparking, and my friend got this back in his possession, and it was still suffering the exact same symptoms as when he had taken it to be worked on. He was so frustrated. He was so mad. He was beyond mad. He gave up on this amp. I think it's absolutely outrageous that a person who is willing to call himself the amp doctor can't diagnose a bad power tube. And on top of that, he supposedly told my friend the circuit board is upside down, I had to take the board out and rewire it and do all this. He made up some big story. The guy didn't do anything in here. This amp is still all factory solder. He didn't touch anything. He didn't rewire. I don't believe he checked any tubes. I believe he ripped my friend off. So that's the second hot take. But anyway, you heard the noise when I cut the edit in. You heard all the noise it was making. You saw the sparking. I swapped in a fresh set of EL84s. It's fired up. It's running absolutely silent now. And just a quick, I'll throw in a quick demo here of what things sound like. It's still running through the attenuator, so I can dime this thing out and give a little look at it. It is interesting with the volume on 10. I'll tell you, with the volume on 10, it's kind of like a cranked Marshall sound. Where's my? Let me see here. So right now the amp is on. Oh, it's not marked, but let me see. Tone at noon. Volume is maybe. Volume's about 10 o'clock. This is a Hum single custom Strat. It breaks up very early. To have that much breakup at only about 10 o'clock on the volume. Even with a single coil. And that's still just running through my Marshall SM57, slightly off center, and then straight in my DAW. I'm not going to do any process. I might high pass it slightly, but I'm not going to do any other processing or anything on there. It has okay dynamics, I think. It responds to a little bit of volume roll-off. But overall, I think the tone's really, to me, it's a little bit nasally. It's very, very mid-rangey, has a lot of nose to it. But that's just with the volume rolled off in the guitar. But then, you know, right about noon on the volume is where I'd expect to start hearing some breakup. You get to noon and this thing's really dirty. With a humbucker, that's got a lot of hair on it already. And then take it up to 10 maybe. And you're straight up like. Pretty slashy with this little amp on 10. Again, that's guitar straight in. All I have is an attenuator. So anyway, problem fixed, minimum rant, the amp plays, and that's, I guess, all I have to say about that.